The back three players that started the 2023 Rugby World Cup final for the Springboks are all injured, which begs the question, who should replace them for the upcoming Island series? Now, as of yesterday, Cheslin Kolbe has been released from the Springbok training squad so that he could go get some scans on a potential knee injury. They almost said it's a little bit of a niggle, but they still need to get the scans to see if he is going to be able to play for the Springboks against Wales and Ireland and the test matches coming up. So as of right now, we don't exactly know what's happening with Cheslin Kolbe, but for him to leave the training squad, it must be something quite serious, and I do think Rassie is going to start making alternative plans for Cheslin Kolbe. It's obviously a massive hit for the Springboks because Cheslin Kolbe is arguably one of the best players in that Springbok outfit. The next player that got injured was Damian Willemse. Now, this happened a couple of weeks ago when the Stormers traveled to Connacht for their round of 18 game in the URC, and Damian Willemse picked up a finger injury in sort of the first 2 minutes of the game. Now, he did carry on and finish the rest of the game, so we weren't too sure how serious it was, but he did have to get surgery. So Damian Willemse is only expected to be back after the Portugal test, which means that he's going to miss the Island series. And Damian Willemse is one of the best rugby players in the world at the moment. He can create absolutely anything from anywhere. He's sort of one of the first players you put on that Springbok team sheet when you start making it. So that is a massive loss at 15 for the Springboks. The next person who recently got injured was Kurtley Arendse. Now, Kurtley got injured in the Bulls quarterfinal against Benetton over the weekend. He played about 25 to 30 minutes in that game and then went off, and I was at that game. It looked like he got a concussion, and in the video we made about that game, I said, I think he's been concussed. Well, it's come out that he's actually fractured his cheekbone. Now, the good part about this is that Jake White seems quite optimistic with his recovery, and they are hopeful that he'll be back for the Island series, but nothing is guaranteed. He had to have surgery. They had to put a plate into his cheek. So if I was Rassie Erasmus, I would start making alternative plans because obviously Kurtley wasn't eligible to play against Wales, and now he could be in doubt for that Island series. So the back three there that started the Rugby World Cup final, Cheslin on that left wing, Damian Willemse at 15 and Kurtley Arendse on the right wing are all injured, which means that Rassie Erasmus has to make some alternative plans. Now, the first person you'll probably look at for the wing position is Keenan Moody. The problem is that Keenan injured himself against the Sharks a couple of weeks ago. It seems that he fractured his index finger in that clash against the Sharks. And he did seem to play it down in the video he took for the Bulls, urging people to still go out and support the Bulls in that quarterfinal Benetton game. But I spoke to a couple of the Bulls staff members over the weekend, and it seems that he's going to be out for another 4 to 5 weeks. Now, potentially he could strap the finger for the Island test coming up, but it is going to affect his passing and his catching. And I'm just not sure if Rassie Erasmus is willing to take that risk, especially against Ireland and especially with the Rugby Championship coming up. So sort of the first replacement, one of the best up-and-coming players for the Springboks, Keenan Moody, is probably also going to miss out on that Island series, which then begs the question, who is Rassie Erasmus going to select to play at that fullback position and on the wings for the Springboks against Ireland? Guys, if you're enjoying this content, please just take a second to mud that subscribe button. About 87% of the people who watch this channel on a regular basis are not subscribed, and we are trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Now, at the fullback position, there are a couple of people that Rassie Erasmus can call on. Now, for the Wales test, we're not going to worry too much about that because that's going to be a bit of a warm-up game for the Island series, and a couple of the players aren't eligible to play against Wales because the Bulls are in the URC semi-finals, and a couple of the international players aren't allowed to play outside of the international break. So we're just going to be focusing on that Ireland test. Now, the first name that obviously comes to mind is Willie le Roux, especially against Ireland, which is a massive game, 1 versus 2 in the world, and it's almost been painted as this who's going to put their mark down as the best in the world, because Ireland, after the World Cup, believed they were the best in the world. Obviously, the Springboks are ranked number 1. They've won 2 World Cups in a row. So as Springbok fans, we think we are number 1 in the world. Willie le Roux provides so much experience. He knows the bulk system inside and out. And I will be very surprised if Willie le Roux doesn't start at 15 against Wales. But there are a couple of more options, and I would love to hear what you guys think down in the comments. So drop your opinions and thoughts down in the comments on who you think should play 15 and wing. Now, there's 3 players that could potentially play in that fullback position against Ireland that have been included in the Springbok training squad for Wales. The first one is Kieran Horn. Now, his primary position is 15. He plays 15 for the Lions. He's had a phenomenal season. I just wonder, he's probably going to start 15 against Wales, so he'll have one cap for the Springboks potentially. I just don't think Rassie Erasmus is going to throw Kieran Horn on debut or any second cap for the Springboks to play against Ireland in such a big test, which is why I'm obviously leaning towards Vili Leroux. But Kieran Horn is definitely an option to take on Ireland in that series. The next player who sort of had a resurgence over the last season for the Sharks is Aphelele Fassi. He plays 15 for the Sharks. We've obviously seen him on the wing for the Springboks, but his primary position is at fullback. Now, it's again going to be, if Fassi plays 15 against Wales, I would almost think that he's probably going to play 15 against Ireland. So it's going to be interesting to see who Rassie picks for Wales, but Aphelele Fassi definitely provides a little bit more utility than Kieran Horn and Vili Leroux at that 15 position because he can slot into wing as well. I would just be, again, very surprised if he does play against Ireland. And then the final person that could potentially play 15 against Ireland is Sasha Feinberg Mgumazulu. Now, he's sort of pegged as this up-and-comer, this Damian Willemse-esque type of player that can play 10, can play 12, can play 15. While his primary position is probably fly half and inside center, he can definitely slot in at that 15 position. Again, he has never played for the Springboks. Again, I don't know if Rassie Erasmus is just going to throw him in the deep end in that Ireland test and test him at number 15. I would argue probably not, just because he doesn't play 15 for the Stormers. His primary position, like I said, is 10 or 12. The other person that Rassie Erasmus could potentially call up from the Stormers who has played for the Springboks before is Warwick Gelant. Now, Damian Willemse got injured, and then Warwick Gelant came in and replaced Damian Willemse in the Stormers' fullback position. So, although Warwick Gelant isn't in the training squad for Wales, he definitely is an option for Rassie Erasmus going into that Ireland series. So again, let me know who you would pick at fullback, and let's get into the wings, which is a little bit more complicated because Jason Colby, injured. We're not sure when he's going to be back. Curtly Arendse, we're not sure if he's going to be back for the Ireland series. Canan Moodie is probably not back for the Ireland series. So those are three very, very good wingers that Rassie Erasmus has lost. Now, there are many, many options to play wing. The first one, who was a bit of a surprise call-up for the training squad against Wales, is Edwil van der Merwe, who's had a phenomenal season for the Lions. He scored plenty of tries. His kicking game's good. His defensive game is good. And obviously his attacking game is good. His celebrations are also great. So again, it comes down to if Rassie Erasmus is willing to risk a debutant against Ireland, or is he going to play Edwil van der Merwe first against Wales to give him a little bit of experience and then throw him into the deep end against Ireland. The next option, again, is Aphelele Fassi, who can play 15 or wing. I think if they do play Fassi, he will play at fullback and then give them that utility to slot into wing if need be. But Aphelele Fassi is definitely an option in that wing position. We've seen him play wing for the Springboks before. The next one is a little bit of an outside chance. Ethan Hooker has been called up to the Springbok training squad ahead of Wales. His primary position is outside center, but he's a big ball carrier. His defense is good, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Rassie Erasmus experiment a little bit with potentially moving him out to either side of the wings. Now, I'm not sure about his kicking game or how good he is under the high ball, which is why he probably won't play wing. He'll probably play outside center against Wales. But it does give Rassie Erasmus another option in that wing category. The next player we're going to look at is Makazole Mpimpi. Now, Mpimpi, he doesn't need any introduction. Yes, he has had a little bit of a quiet season for the Sharks, but he has been included in that training squad for Wales. I think against Ireland, you need someone who's extremely experienced, knows that level of rugby. So I would almost pick Mpimpi to play against Ireland if Colby and Curtly Arendse and Canan Moodie aren't available. So for me, I probably think Mpimpi is going to be on one side of the wing against Ireland. Next up, we got Grant Williams. Plays for the Sharks. Primary position is scrum off, but we have seen him play on the wing for the Springboks. He's lightning quick. His kicking game is pinpoint. His defense is pretty good. And it just frees up that utility as well. He can slot into scrum off. He can slot on the wing. I'm pretty sure Grant Williams could even play 15 if he had to, but it does provide Rassie Erasmus with another option, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Mpimpi and a Grant Williams wing combination against Ireland. Now, with the introduction of Ethan Hooker, it kind of frees up that outside centre spot. Jesse Kriel. Now, obviously, Lukhanyo is injured at the moment, which is why he hasn't been included in the training squad. But Jesse Kriel has had a great season over in Japan. There's been many news articles about how well he's been playing over there in Japan. I would move Jesse Kriel out of that 13, potentially put Ethan Hooker in there or someone else. And Jesse Kriel, we know he can play wing. We know his experience. We saw it in the World Cup, how well he played. It was probably one of the best performers overall for the Springboks in that World Cup. So if I look at it again, it's probably Mpimpi and Jesse Kriel who's going to play against Ireland on the wings. And then an outside option who hasn't been included in the training squad, but he has been to an alignment camp, is Suleiman Hudsenberg, who plays for the Stormers. He's nice and young. And I think with the injury to Colby, obviously we saw Mpilo Gumede come in, adding another loose forward. But Suleiman Hudsenberg does give Rassie Rasmus another option there on wing. So there are plenty of options. I know in the title it says crisis, but it is a little bit of a crisis when you look at the experience of the players coming up. It's going to be interesting to see who Rassie picks at wing and fullback for Wales. And it's going to be even more interesting to see who he picks for that back three against Ireland. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't, please absolutely mur that subscribe button. Leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.